Welcome back everyone, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm releasing another news daily video. Now, just to let you guys know, I have released a previous video where I break down the 8 players that Lampard wants to get rid of, and I talk about why Dayot Upamecano is the right centre back for us to look at. So make sure you guys see it right after this video, but for today's video I'll be talking about Aouar, Jeremie, Boga and Tammy Abraham. So it's going to be a very big video, and if you do like today's video, if you like everything I do, then smash that like button, help me get over 1,500 likes, and on that point we get straight into things, starting with the first story of today, and that's going to be in regards to Tammy Abraham. Now unfortunately Tammy Abraham has re-aggravated his ankle knock injury. Now throughout the past month he's been suffering with his ankle, he's been forced to have to come back to the team because of the big games that we've had to play this season, and due to the lack of quality options in the striker area. Now, is this really a surprise that Tammy re-aggravates his injury? Of course not, because he's been forced to have to rush back and help and fight for the team. Now, from Lampard's perspective, I understand. This month has been a very big and important month. We play all the big teams this month and we need to get points. It's a very decisive month, and due to the lack of support, due to the lack of options available, due to so many injuries, Lampard has to take some unfortunate risks, and this is why Tammy Abraham's been forced to have to come back to the team way too early. Now obviously the dangers of this approach is that the player can't fully heal properly, and he keeps getting these micro tears and microaggressions on his injury, leading to the player eventually breaking down. Now throughout this season we've seen it so many times with Emerson and with N'Golo Kante, so it is quite frustrating. You know, Tammy Abraham has an opportunity to lead the line for the England national team in this year's Euros, especially because Harry Kane looks like he's going to miss it, and for him to not be playing in such a big crucial month, because this was an opportunity for Tammy to show what he's like against the very best teams. Now I have to say, I have been a bit disappointed with some of the responses in regards to Tammy. You know, I don't understand why his injury has been completely dismissed and brushed off. Now yeah, I understand that he's missed some easy chances. I understand that sometimes when he gets on the end of these passes, he's not connecting properly. But you know, let's separate that from the player being injured, because of course throughout this month he has not been able to show anything he's about due to his ankle injury. I mean, of course it's going to affect you mentally. When you play football, and I'm sure most of you guys have, I mean we all have, you know, we've all been kicked, we've all been knocked, some of us have suffered injuries as well. If your ankle's damaged, then that's going to affect how you play. I mean, Tammy Abraham plays up front where he needs to chase lost causes, press his opponents, play with his back to goal, hold the ball up, challenge for aerial balls as well as starting and stopping constantly. So of course that's going to only put more pressure on your ankle if it still hasn't fully recovered. I understand that his game can be critiqued. I mean, of course, he's 22 years old, he's nowhere near his prime form at this moment in time. I just see it being very counterproductive when the player can't fully play properly due to his injury, where some people in the fan base think that it's a good idea to say on social media and to at Tammy Abraham to tell him that he's not good enough, we need to get a new striker, etc, etc. And you know, this weird support, I guess if you're a footballer, you know, you need to get used to it. You need to get that mental toughness. Listen, better players than Tammy have suffered the same scrutiny. I remember when Drogba first signed for us, it took him at least 3 seasons before people in the fan base decided to trust him and put their faith in him. Before that, it was constantly, he's crap, he's bad, get rid of him. And of course, Drogba was missing some very easy chances as well. But, you know, history plays out. We only remember the good parts. We don't remember the realities and just how the situation was. I think it's going to be the same thing for Tammy Abraham. You know, right now, most people don't like him, but in the next few years, that's when we'll fully appreciate the player. But anyway, you guys, for the next part, I'm going to focus on the 2 big stories for today in regards to Aouar and Jeremie Boga. Now, starting with Aouar first, this story has been reported by L'Equipe, and they're stating that we're planning to make a 50 million offer for Aouar to replace Jorginho. Now this is very interesting. The report states that we've been monitoring the player for a while, he's of great interest, and we're looking to make a move for the player. Now the club are hoping that Juventus are going to start to pursue Jorginho because, you know, Sarri needs him for his system. Sarri is under a lot of pressure at this point in time because his Sarri ball methods aren't working at Juventus. Now, it's no surprise to me, you know, he doesn't have the midfield he needs, and that's always the most important part in a Sarri ball team. In that sense, Jorginho could be the lifesaver that Sarri needs to stay longer at Juventus and to show the fans that that his methods do work, the football can be beautiful, and we can get to these promised lands if we just remain patient and work hard. Interestingly, a few months ago, Jorginho's agent actually spoke about Jorginho even being receptive to moves in the summer. He mentioned that his client does want to stay, but anything can happen in the transfer market. They'll assess all their options in the summer, and when asked about Juventus' interest, his agent said, well, yeah, of course, Juventus are a great team. Jorginho has worked under Sarri. He understands the mechanisms that Sarri wants in his team, and of course, anything can happen. Now, immediately for me, I've always felt like Jorginho's future would be under scrutiny. Not because he's a bad player, of course not, but because, for the football we want to play, due to the expansive style, due to the emphasis on speed, on covering spaces quickly, on the need for physicality, this is naturally going to affect Jorginho. It's not every single game that we are going to use a 4-3-3, and in that sense, Jorginho's game is better suited to teams that keep the ball on the floor. Even Sarri himself mentioned that Jorginho isn't the greatest passer, saying that Fabregas was better, but it was those mechanisms that Sarri respected and wanted from Jorginho. And interestingly enough, Juventus are also looking at Aouar. So if we were to make an aggressive move for the player, that's going to have to force Juventus into action. If we sign Aouar, that could force Juventus to have to make a move for Jorginho, and if that happens, then effectively you're paying off the Aouar transfer fee for nothing, because the money that you make from the Jorginho sale gets fully reinvested into the transfer of Aouar. So in that sense, and with how we like to conduct business, I could see it working, I could see it happening. Now, is Aouar the type of player we need? Funny enough, I remember not too long ago, there used to be this thing on social media on Twitter where there was this big Aouar vs Mason Mount debate. I never really understood it. It didn't make too much sense to me because, of course, they play and they're better suited in different positions. For me, Aouar is similar to your players like your Thiagos, your Luka Modric's. These players are better playing in the pivot. And as we saw with Thiago recently, players like this can really exponentially improve the team and take your team's attack to another level. And in this sense, this is where Aouar shines. He has that left foot in midfield, he covers ground, he works hard. If you look at how he's been performing in the Champions League, he's showing that he's ready to play at the highest level. He's been one of the best midfield players in the tournament this season, had a very good game against Juventus, and it's like when you see his stats too. He's making more tackles, he's running harder, he's making more passes, he's doing everything better at a higher level. He's only 21 years old, and with a player like him who's only going to get better, maybe it's a worthwhile sacrifice to let Jorginho go to sign Aouar. He suits the football that Lampard wants, he has a great engine, and on top of that, he's another multifaceted player who can play all across midfield. For me personally, I think he's much better receiving the passes from his centre-back compared to playing as a number 10, and I can just imagine his left foot finding these passing angles in midfield, really just transforming our attack and how we play. Imagine a midfield four of Aouar, Kante, Ruben and Kovacic. That's a world-class midfield. That is without a doubt a world-class midfield. And that's a midfield that you can start to win things with and start to really plan and prepare how you're going to dominate. I know I'm starting to get a little bit gassed, but imagine a midfield three of a Kante, Ruben and Aouar. All I'm saying is that it's pretty complete. It's a pretty complete midfield. And the exciting thing is, now that we've signed Ziyech, now that we have players like Kova, and just due to the buzz that's around the club right now, I feel like we can sign players like this. This is the exciting thing. So of course, we're going to see what happens. Now, on this point going forwards, we move on to the final story for today, and that's in regards to the latest surrounding Jeremie Boga and the club's plans for the player. Now, this story's been broken in Italy, and Boga's agent Daniel Boga and Sassuolo representatives have come to London to talk to Chelsea in regards to our plans for the player. Now, if you guys don't know, at this point in time, we do have a buyback clause on Boga that is set at 15 million euros, which is about 12.5 or 30 million pounds. Sassuolo's position, they're hoping that we rescind that offer, we take away that buyback clause, and we allow Boga to stay for one more season. I don't know what they'd renegotiate, but I can imagine that they would renegotiate something that would work in our favour as well. And could that be a good idea? We already have Pulisic, we have Hudson-Odoi, we have Ziyech, and it looks like we're trying to sign Sancho as well. At this point in time, there really isn't a place for Boga, but who knows? After the next season, when Lampard really evaluates who's excelling in the system and who's not, who knows, maybe we might be in the market again for attacking players. Anyway though, getting back into reports, we actually want to sign Boga and bring him back. However, we want to do this so we can sell the player on, essentially flipping him for a bigger profit. Now, from this point going forward, I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions, and I'm going to start off with the objective one, and I'm going to talk about the club's position. I'm going to talk about the logical business sense behind this deal. Of course, with Boga, with the interest from big clubs all across Europe, from so many teams interested. I'm talking about your Atalantas, your Monacos, Barca are monitoring, Napoli, etc, etc. You can go on. If you're signing Boga for 12.5 million, you can probably double or triple your money on the player. And with added context that this next window is going to be a massive window for us, maybe the club are really planning to spend big. Maybe these reports that Sancho, but to spend big, we're going to have to sell players. Now, realistically, are we going to get rid of 8 players in the next window? It's going to be very ambitious, and in football, you don't really see things like this happen too often. It's very hard to buy and sell players. So what if the plan was to generate more money by turning towards players that we still technically own, to flip them and obviously reinvest the money generated from their sales to fund bigger transfers? Because hypothetically, if we are going to make this big move for Sancho, in that sense, Boga's sale could finance that and really help us sign him. To give my thoughts and opinions, you guys know that I've been a massive fan of Jeremie Boga. It's not something I hide. From the first time I saw him play for us as a 15-year-old against a Barca team that had guys like Adama Traore at the time and many others, he was by far the best player on the pitch, playing in his best position, which is the number 10 role. For people that saw him play for the academy too, you know yourself that there's a lot more to his game. Of course, leaving for clubs and signing for your Sassuolos and other smaller teams, you can't play the same sophisticated style that you can at big teams. We know that Boga's a better player playing in between the lines and in those central spaces. He's had it very hard. The club hasn't really helped him too much. I think managers at the club have really let him down as well, but that hasn't deterred him. His talent has kept him on that same trajectory. He's been absolutely tearing it up in Serie A. 7 goals, 4 assists. To some, you might not care because it's Sassuolo, it's Serie A, a bad league, who cares? But it's how players play. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. And when you see that Boga steps up in the big games, when you see the types of goals he's scoring, the invention, the important goals, the winning goals, the decisive assists. I mean, the goals he scored against Conte's Inter and Sarri's Juventus are 2 sensational goals that I don't see any one of our attacking players scoring at this point in time. I feel like Boga's going to get even better the minute he signs for a better team that plays attacking football. I guarantee to you guys that you're going to hear a lot more about the player in Europe. I guarantee it. He's always had the ability. He's one of the best dribblers that I've seen, and his stats this season have been ridiculous. They've been FIFA-like in that sense. Unfortunately though, for the sake of the team, the sake of balance, and for the project as well, we have to be realistic. This ain't Football Manager. We can't have 5 attacking players. A few of them will be bound to be upset. It's what happens. And the great skill about being a great manager, it's not just about the tactics, but it's how you manage the players, it's how you look after them, etc, etc. So for me, I think the window to sign Boga might not be the right one. Now, of course, if moves for Sancho did turn down, if Sancho stupidly decided to sign for Man United, then I would say make sure you sign Jeremie Boga. But I feel like we're in a fortunate position now where finally, after how many years, we can go for our top #1 priority players, and we have a massive chance of signing them. It has not been like this for a long time, so let's see what happens, you guys. But anyway, as I said, Boga, incredible player. We're going to be hearing a lot more about this guy across Europe very, very soon. I'm looking forward to seeing what club he's going to sign for next. And boys, on that point, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NiniFC, this is Blue Lines TV. I'll see you guys in a bit.